Good morning.
Good morning, everyone. Morning, everyone. Well, 7 o'clock, so we're gonna get it going like we always do. Welcome, everyone, to another Mindset Saturday. Good to see everyone. Always an honor and a pleasure. Thank you as always for coming. Gonna have another great day, another great learning opportunity for us to grow, to hear, to do what we hear, and to get the benefit of being a doer, not just a hearer. So welcome to another great Saturday. Hope everybody's week went well. And today we are going to do a little bit of everything today. Today's going to be a little bit of everything. Where do I want to start today? I always have 1,000 things I can start from, but I'm trying to figure out where do I want to start today. Hmm.
Coach,
It's, I think,
how was
and
the
that's,
week?
and the week goes by fast. Everything is good, goes by fast. You know,
Yeah.
it goes by fast.
Awesome. I'm glad you had an overcoming week.
Yeah,
Great
how's everybody
morning to
go?
you. It was good. It was really
Good,
good.
good.
Good week. Another week down.
Mm-hmm. Okay. Okay. Trying to think of some of the things sometimes I want to start with that I try to figure out which one I want to start with. I think I'll just get right into it today. I think I'll get right into it today. All right. So one of the places that I used to go when I was young, the Price Club, which is now known as Costco. My mom used to take my brothers and I. We used to always go once a month, maybe twice a month, and for all of us, we know what it is. It's just a big, huge warehouse full of stuff, and all shapes and sizes, and just full of stuff. It reminded me this week of the things we talk about here. When we're talking about the mind and we're talking about how we use our consciousness to have our experiences in life, to that runs us into the experiences of life. Everything is already created, everything is already here. But according to our level of consciousness and what we're aware of being, that is what we see. That is what guides us to the experiences we have, almost like walking down this big old warehouse of Costco and you're just looking around. There's all these different products that you could take advantage of, that you could come in contact with, that you could use and experience. But when you first get to Costco, I mean, it's enormous. The first time you ever go, you're like, good Lord, what is this? And so you're walking around this big old place and has all this different stuff, and you're trying to figure out what this stuff all is, where this stuff is, and do I need this much of it? And as you go more, you start to get better at figuring out what stuff is, where it is, what you can use, how often you need to go to use it, to get what you need there, what you should buy there versus a regular grocery store. So you're figuring out not only what this place is, but how to use it in your best interest. When we talk about all the things we talk about on Saturday and we live this lifestyle of being aware of who we really are, being aware of our consciousness and what that means and how we can use the apparatus of our mind, right? The collection of thoughts, feelings, and beliefs to determine and to guide and dictate and direct what life experiences we have. It's a lot of information. It's like Costco. It's a lot of information. It's a lot to process and to take in, to figure out what do I need, what do I not, when should I use it, how should I use it. It's a lot to take in. And there's a lot to think about, to use, to learn, and figure out how to narrow that down. What applies to you now, what applies to you later, what you can use now, what you can use later, how to use this stuff, how often you need to come back, and all those different things. So there's a lot of different topics that we talk about here, a lot of different ways we talk about things, so that, like in this Costco experience, we get a chance to see the whole warehouse, we get a chance to see all these different products, and we get a chance to use our mind and the vastness of it to help guide us and direct us to the particular and specific experience or experiences we like to have that are most particular and important and relevant to us. So when you're going throughout your day and you're in Costco and you buy whatever you buy, so then on Saturday or Sunday, and then you go throughout your day during the week, you're like, oh, I got toilet paper. Oh, I need paper towels now. Oh, I need soap. And so you're glad that you bought all these things, because now when you have them, when you need them, you have them. Because it's right now, you don't have time to go back. You don't have time to figure it out. You need whatever it is you need right now. So hopefully when you didn't need it, you bought it, so to speak. When you weren't using it right now, you still bought it so that when you needed it, it was available. So I'm going to start off with one of the things that actually reminded me of this whole thing, which was one of the first people I started listening to when in this learning how to think and things like that was Dr. Bruce Lipton. I don't know if a lot of you have a lot of you heard about Dr. Bruce Lipton? Do you know who that is? Things like that. Anyone else? Anybody heard of Dr. Bruce Lipton?
No, I have not.
You have not?
No, I haven't.
Okay. Epigenetics. Okay. One of his biology of belief. Okay. So he was a scientist, and he talked about his own journey as far as being a scientist, talking about understanding how the body works, understanding how the body works. As he started going on his journey, he started realizing that, well, what makes the body work? If the body is a conscious thing and it can start something, stop something, increase something, decrease something, what is it that's actually making that happen? So when talking about science, people, a lot of people talk about genetics, they talk about biology, but what he really started talking about and learning and discovering through his own experiments and time and things like that, he started realizing the importance of belief and how your beliefs become epi. Epi meaning on top of, like your epidermis, right? The top of your skin, the layers on the top of your skin. People, he was saying how people believe their genetics create and control and dictate and determine their entire life. And he was saying through decades of research, not only his own, but others, they have come to coin a new phrase called epigenetics. And essentially it means how your beliefs, how your conscious beliefs are the teachers of your genetics, of your cells' consciousness, and how your cells form themselves and rearrange themselves and conduct themselves based on your beliefs, based on whether you think you're healthy or not, whether you think you're fat or not, whether you think you're, as far as in your physical human body. And he went on later to realize that about how this truth expands to everything, because it is the truth. How the physical world is dictated by something non-physical. How your physical body is dictated by something non-physical, invisible. And so epigenetics is the term meaning that their beliefs sit on top of your genetics, that the biology of your beliefs, that what you are believing to be true about your physical experience is what's actually governing and guiding and directing and organizing your genetics. It is said that we have a new physical body from top to bottom every 13 months, meaning our body renews. regenerates all the cells and all the things in it, renew and regenerate, so that at the end of 13 months, you essentially have a completely different body, right? All the food you eat is constantly making new blood, making new, as far as just reorganizing it, restructuring it, making new blood, making new bones and skin tissue and cells and things like that. So what you had 13 months ago, you cannot or should not technically have 13 months from now, as far as it being inevitable. Everything is being renewed constantly, but it's being renewed according to your epigenetics, according to the belief of your biology, what you believe about your biology. That sits on top of your genetics, that your biology, your health, your genetics are being governed by your beliefs, by what you think and feel to be true about your physical expression, right? And your belief is your experience. So if you've been sick for 13 months, essentially what that means is that you've had the same thought that created that mental experience has now created that physical expression, and it is the same. It has not changed. That is why you still are in the state that you're in. And in order to actually get health and actually control your biology, your genetics, your belief, the thing that sits on top that's governing and controlling that must be changed in order to get a different physical outcome, so to speak. So that's what Dr. Bruce Lipton talks about. So one of the things he talks about is this number here, 95. 95. Does anybody know what that number 95 represents?
No.
Anybody guess what that number 95 represents?
Purple Bailey does not know.
Okay.
No, sir, but if we have to do some guesses, I'ma say the major interstate on the East Coast.
The what?
The major interstate on the East Coast, I-95.
Okay. Yeah, I used to live out there with my brother in DC. Yeah, 95 was live.
Oh, that's funny.
Okay. One more.
How much is water?
How much what?
Our percentage of water?
Okay. All right. That's 3 guesses, 3 failures. Perfect.
That was a good one. I like that.
Okay. Perfect. 95. It is said that 95% of your life is run by your subconscious mind.
I was gonna guess that.
Your subconscious, your habit mind. 95% is run by your subconscious habit mind. You just do what you do because you've been doing it over and over and over. So when people say it's hard to change, or I can't change, or whatever else it is, it's because 95% of what you have available to you, so to speak, is run by what you have been thinking. Joe Dispenza is another person who's actually their friends. Joe Dispenza talks about how your mind replays the same stories over and over and over and over and over. So you wake up every morning feeling the same way, not necessarily physically, but as far as like your mental state. You wake up and you think a lot of the same thoughts today that you thought yesterday. So that's why even though you have a new day and you're moving forward, so to speak, you're stuck in the present because your present is a reflection of your past, because you keep rewarming and reheating. So it's almost like if you ate yesterday's food, you could be in a new day, but you're eating yesterday's food. So whatever yesterday's food, even though it may have been cooked yesterday, you're still only getting the value and nutrition of what was made yesterday. There's no new opportunity for this to be different because it's the same food. There's no more new ingredients. There's nothing new introduced to it. So whatever it was yesterday, it is today. Whatever it could do for you yesterday, it can do for today. So he talks about how even though we're moving forward and we have new opportunities, the reason why we don't see new things in our life is because we are rehashing, rewarming, reheating, reserving the same thoughts, the same beliefs, and most of those don't serve us. So it's why we have a hard time seeing new things in our life, because we're thinking the same thoughts over and over and over about this person or this thing or about our health or about whatever else it may be. So that's what he talks about. 95% of our mind, right? Our mind is split in two, right? You have the conscious mind, right? And the subconscious mind. The Bible makes the conscious mind male, makes the subconscious mind female. They're just talking, they are giving they are attaching attributes to them based on how they believe they work, right? They're not just male or female, literally, but they're giving an attribute, right? So your conscious mind is visible. Your unconscious mind is invisible. So 95% of your day, your habits are invisible. 95% of what you do are things that you're not even conscious of doing. Meaning you just do them so habitually. It doesn't mean you're not doing them, but they're just automatic. They're just things that you do, right? What sock you put on first, what shoe you put on first, whether it's your left foot or your right foot, even something as simple as that. I realize I like putting on my left shoe first. I don't even know why. It's not even, but I become conscious when I put my right shoe on first. It's almost like I become aware that I'm putting my shoes on if I do it a different way. Just weirdest thing, but I realize it's just habit. It's not right or wrong, it's just habit. Right? I don't know how I started it, but I put my left shoe on first. I don't know why, I just do.
Jojo said in the chat, repeat of thoughts keeps you small in a massive universe.
It does, in that sense, especially if they're so-called limiting, meaning if they're not the ones that allow you to express yourself. But even if they are, we are constantly expressing. That's how we live forever. If we stop, we die. Anything that stops growing starts dying. You're either going up the hill or down it. There is no levitation, so to speak, right? So we're constantly, as our true self, that's why we live forever, because we're constantly expanding. That's why we're having this physical experience, because we're constantly growing and learning and developing. We're constant, it's constant, right? So 95% of our conscious, of our physical expression is what we are habitually used to thinking. They're the outcomes of our habitual thought. That means only 5% is left. So if you just do the math, 95 versus 5, right? You can actually see now why it's so hard to change your mind. Why it's so hard to change your habits. Because you're literally using 5% of what's conscious to try to overthrow, overrule, do a coup d'etat, so to speak, right? To take over the power that be. With 5%, you have 5 people trying to battle 95 people. Right? This habit mind is governing and guiding our lives for the most part. That's why if you ask most people what they do, they'll tell you, I don't know. Why I do it, they'll tell you, I don't know. If you ask them where they get it from, they'll tell you they don't know. If you ask them why they don't change it, they'll say, I can't. But they don't know where they got it from, why they have it, who they got it from, but they are committed to keeping it, even though they called you to complain about something else again today. Because the habit mind is a very powerful mind. It's a very powerful part of the mind. So it is governing our physical world more than our conscious mind. So when you start thinking about that, right? I was having this conversation this week. When you start thinking about that, then you realize, okay, this law that is this thing that is happening, how can I work with this? How can I work with this 95% with my 5%? How can I, because if the 5% wasn't enough really or important, it would just be 100%. So there's a reason we're keeping this 5%. So what are we keeping this 5% for, and how can we use it to affect this 95%? What are we keeping this 5% for, and how can we use it?
Jojo is asking if there's a book to reference this.
So Dr. Bruce Lipton, like the tea, is he talks about the biology of belief. He talks about epigenetics. So I know he has a book called Biology of Belief, but if you just look him up, it'll show you all his books. He's also on YouTube. Look him up, Dr. Bruce Lipton,
And Joe
Dr. Joe Dispenza. Another one, great one, is Dr. Greg Braden. Dr. Greg Braden. These three are all friends. They all talk about a lot of the same things.
Is it B-R-E?
No, it's BRA.
A-D-D?
Or no, I think it's just A. No, I think it's Dr. DEN.
I just butchered it.
Okay,
But
Dr. Greg
let me
Braden,
fix
but
it.
they're all the same. They're all, meaning they're all friends. They all talk about similar things a little bit differently, but those three are really good talking about what we're talking about right now.
Thank you.
Right now. So what is this 5% for? What are we keeping it for and how can we use it? 95% of our habit mind, we are literally on autopilot. But for most of us, this autopilot is a crash landing. It's Mayday, Mayday. Mayday, Mayday. Right? When your health is poor, Mayday, Mayday. When your money is not right, Mayday, Mayday. When things aren't what you want them to be, it's Mayday, help, whatever, however you understand it, do it. Right? What is this 5% for and how can we use it? What and how?
Is the 5% our subconscious and we use it to reprogram so that our conscious mind is changed and doing things differently?
I think I missed the first half of what you said.
Our speaker keeps doing
Is-
that. I got it.
Is the 5% our subconscious?
No, 5% is your conscious. So what is this? What is this 5% for and how can we use it?
To be intentional.
Okay. Intentional about what? That's very true.
About the things that we want, about the goals that we have for our life, about our thoughts. Like, it's up to us to use that 5%.
Okay. How can we do that? Intentional is exactly right. That's a great word. I don't even know if I would have used that one, but that's exactly correct. And that's probably the best word. How can we be intentional with this 5%?
I was kind of thinking like to influence the subconscious.
Okay. How can
Being
we?
aware.
Okay.
Aware. Yeah.
Okay. Being aware. How do we create awareness?
Michelle put in the chat programming.
How can we do that?
By being
That is
more
true,
present.
Michelle.
Environment.
Okay. What do you mean by environment?
So the environment you have kind of opens the level of awareness that you have and what's around you. And then when you have that awareness is when you can be intentional about putting yourselves in the right environment, putting yourself in front of the right programming, putting yourself around the right people so that you can be intentional because you have that awareness. I don't know if that makes sense.
Mm-hmm. So I would say that's true to some extent. However, what I would say is then you're placing your outcome in someone else, something else, somewhere else that you can't necessarily control.
Tony put in the chat planning and repetition.
Yes, that is true too. So Michelle, so what I mean is
Michelle said programming in the chat.
Program-
That was Latoya.
oh, that was Latoya talking. So Latoya, so all of it is correct. We're all very close, right? And so what that means is program. Everything you guys said is right. It is programming. It is repetition. Programming and repetition of what? Meaning, like, what are you what are you intentionally programming through repetition?
Monique said habits.
Habits? Which
Your
one?
mind.
Leslie, this is what we're going to talk about. This is what we were talking about earlier
Your
before.
unconscious habits.
Okay, all of your habits. But we are not doing anything. We're not making more effort. What we're trying to do, like we were talking about, Leslie and I were having this conversation before the thing came on, before the actual 7 o'clock, right? In that 6:30 to 7 o'clock hour. If we're in the car and the car is in reverse, what are we doing? Leslie,
Reversing.
because say it again.
Reversing.
Is that what we call it?
Driving.
Driving. If we're in the car and the car goes and the car's in drive, what are we doing?
Driving.
Driving. Whether you're in reverse or in drive, you're driving, right? Nobody would say you're on a bike. Nobody would say you're walking. It doesn't matter whether you're in reverse or in drive, you're still driving. But reverse is much harder to stay in longer than driving. Anybody want to drive looking over their shoulder for an hour? It's a much harder thing to do. I say this as an analogy to say, we are all driving, we are all thinking, but the problem is that most of us are doing it in reverse. We're doing it in a way that's actually counterproductive. It's harder to maintain. So it's not that what we're trying to do here requires more effort, it just requires more consciousness. It requires us to be more alert and aware of what it is we're actually doing, or the thoughts we're actually having or entertaining, or that are being used to foster or support this physical behavior, this expression. What experience are we using to foster or support this physical expression? So we are not doing, the whole point is that we're not doing anything more. We're just trying to be more mindful of what we're doing so that everything we do is intentional toward our desired end. It's not more effort. We're using the same amount of energy to drive instead of being reverse all the time. It's easier. There's a time for reverse, but it's much less than drive. So it's not more, we're not trying to use more effort. My point is our effort is not the issue. It's just that our intentions that we are using our effort with or for are not correct. So we don't need more effort, we just need better intention. We need more specificity, more clarity, right? So our 5% mind must be intentional, and we must use it to program the 95%. That's what we're going to use the 5% for. The habit mind doesn't pick anything. It just runs on what's picked. The habit mind, this 95% only accepts and executes. The 5% only chooses. It's only the identity. The 5% is the seed. The 95% is the soil or the ground. It's the thing that's going to pop up as a result of this seed being implanted in it. It is a direct reflection of itself, of the seed. So your 95% is a direct reflection of your 5%. Your 5% is still really, really the most powerful because you can change everything here. You can take a new seed and change it. And your 95% is only going to accept and execute. It does not argue with you. It does not say, oh, we're doing that one again. It doesn't say, well, I thought we were going to do peaches the next time. It doesn't say any of that. It only accepts what you put in it. Your subconscious mind only accepts what you put in it. Your 5% is the decider. Haven't you noticed when we were all young Everybody wanted to be grown as quick as they could generally. But the reason that is because we wanted the ability to choose. And like we talked about last week, the ability to choose, the best word for that is what?
Awareness.
Say that again?
Awareness.
Okay, but what is the benefit of awareness?
Oh, being able to choose.
What is the benefit?
Freedom.
Freedom.
Right, okay.
Freedom.
Thank
Your
you.
5% is your freedom. This is where your freedom lies. It doesn't lie in the 95%. But the 95%, your habit mind is governing your whole life because you need your conscious mind to deal with a specific thing right now. So right now, you're using your conscious mind for us to have a conversation. You're not using your conscious mind to swallow, to blink, to digest. You're not using it to sit up in the chair properly. But if you lost consciousness, do you think any of those things would happen? Right? So your mind, your consciousness is split in two. It's split really kind of more in three, right? That's what Noah's Ark is about, the 3 levels, right? It's like your what you call your God mind, your human mind, and your subconscious mind. That's really what the Noah's Ark is talking about. It's talking about how everything is within you. Your body is the ark. That everything is within. So that you have everything in you to recreate a new life. That's one of the things it's talking about. And that's why it's 3 stories. It's talking about your God mind, your human mind, and your subconscious mind. The 3 levels of your consciousness. So when you get an idea from somewhere, and you're like, man, where did I get that from? I'm just using very simple words. That is your God mind that gave the idea to your human mind. And the human mind says, I think I want to do that. And then through practice and repetition, it becomes a part of you. When you first get it, it's not a part of you. That's why you're alert. You're like, where did I get that from? I don't recognize that. But I like it, but I don't recognize it. It's the 3 levels of your consciousness, right? But we're just breaking it down in 2 right now just to make it easier. And this is good enough for right now, right? But your 5% mind, this is where your freedom lies. There is no freedom here in your 95%. But that's why most of us aren't free. Because 95% of our life is governed by this 95% habit mind where freedom does not exist. Only execution, only expression of this 5%. Remember back in the day, they're probably still doing it now, probably. But years ago, when they talk about Occupy Wall Street and down with the 1% and everything like that, yeah, it's the same thing in the sense of it's always the smallest percentage that's governing everything. It's a small percent of power that's governing the larger percent. Smallest amount of people have the most wealth, even more than the cumulative wealth of all the other larger group. Smallest amount of people are controlling the most people. The smallest part of your consciousness in humanity, your 5% part of your mind is governing your 95%. But through repetition, you get more comfortable, familiar with anything, whether it's wearing a suit, whether it's wearing high heels, whether it's wearing earrings, whether it is riding a bike. Through repetition, that is how you become familiar with anything that at first was uncomfortable. Then after a while, you don't even have to think about it. Right? So your 5% is where all your freedom lies. So what you do is you use this 5% to now change this 95% so that it's running on autopilot. You intentionally program. Now, how do you intentionally program? This is what I mean by Costco. When you go into this big store, you're seeing all this stuff and you don't know what's relevant or not. And sometimes you don't know what to buy or you don't. You don't know if you should buy it now or not. If you should buy this big old thing, am I going to use it? I don't know. But when you come home from work on Wednesday and you wish you would have bought that big old thing of toilet paper or paper towels, it's Wednesday. You want to go back to Costco now after work? You're not going to want to do that. So you start to realize as you mature in your shopping, you're like, yeah, I don't need it today, probably not for 2 or 3 days, or maybe toward the end of the week. But I know when I need it, I don't want to have it. I want to already have it. So as you go on in your journey of mind, maturing in your mind and your awakening and your consciousness expanding, you'll start to realize that something you heard 2 weeks ago is now relevant. Like, oh, that's what they meant. That's what they're talking about. So when I heard him talk about this years ago, I was like, okay, I get it. But I still was like, okay, but what's that got to do with Tuesday or Thursday or Friday night? Yeah, well, that 95% is clicking and clacking on all them days and nights, right? And so it is either working for you or against you, meaning it's either working for your desired end or counter to your desired end. So how can you use this 5% mind to intentionally program it? How do you do that? And what do you do? What are ways to do that? I don't know if quiet or get more quiet, but it got quiet. Got quiet and quiet.
Can you repeat the question?
How do you use your 5%, the 5% of our consciousness? How do we use that to intentionally program the 95% of our subconscious habit mind that is running our day because of the fact that we don't consciously think of most things. We just respond, we just react to most things, our habit mind. So how do we, if we know that this is ruling and governing our day, how do we intentionally program our mind with the 5% to put in this 95% what we want?
I'm gonna say becoming more aware of our choices and being hesitant to just accept any and everything when it's brought to us in a, I don't want to say present, because you already kind of knocked down that our presence is still accumulation of our thoughts of the past, but just choosing, I don't know.
But
Okay.
I want to piggyback Coach Lucky.
Yes.
I'm vibing with everything she was talking about, but I want to piggyback. I will focus on those that I aspire to become like, and probably give more attention in those like more mentor or more like example setting spaces. I would focus my attention and turn everything else off. Like I would focus my attention on where I want to be and those who are already there, and then kind of govern my choices based on that, rather than just letting that 95% rack my brain. You know what I mean? Does that make sense?
Yeah. Okay.
Yes,
I'll
because
respond to that in a
Sparkle's
second.
attention is essentially Sparkle's power. And that's what she's giving her power to. And we know that our power only resides in that 5% that makes us free. Thank you for vibing with me, Sparkle.
Love you, sis.
Okay. And then,
Leslie put in the chat prayer, meditation, affirmations.
yes.
I was going to say observation, so like observing self. So kind of a little bit, the difference is a different spectrum than what Sparkle Bailey mentioned. It's like the other side. So observing yourself.
So all of you are right. So, and here's how I would say it. Number one, becoming aware, right? Like we just heard, becoming aware of what it is you're thinking. Now, you're not aware of every thought all at one time, all the time. So this is just part of it. And you don't have to become aware necessarily to change you don't have to become aware of everything to change what you want to change. You can change as you become aware. And you can change what you're aware of right now. You can start there. That's fine. That will work. So first is awareness. Yes, becoming aware of what is it that you're thinking that's working for you or not. And then 2, choosing what you do want to think. 3, just kind of like, I think it was LaToya who said it and Sparkle who said what she just said. Yes, what you both are saying is true. However, what I would say to you is that I would say those are secondary. That's like AAA. It's good to have somebody help you and charge you up and fix your tire and bring you gas. But it's better for you to be a driver who doesn't need it, but always has access to it when you would like it. So what I would say to you is, I think Leslie said it, people use prayer, people use affirmations, people use scripting, people use visualization, people use what those things reflect are things that you can do for yourself to intentionally program your 95% subconscious mind by saying, if my mind, my habit mind is built, maintained, sustained, created by the habitual thoughts and feelings and beliefs I have, that's how it works. So now, if I want this to work, this 95% to work for me instead of against me, then my freedom, what I'm going to use this 5% to do is to choose the identity or the seeds I want to plant in here that it will automatically accept and execute.
And Michelle had put in the chat, journaling makes ourselves tangible.
Everybody has their own way of getting to the point. It doesn't matter how you get there. Everyone is different.
Right.
So it could be journaling, prayer, affirmation, scripting, visualizations. You can do all of them, none of them, some of them, whatever works for you, so that you start to intentionally programming and start intentionally deciding what seed. When you're a farmer and you go to get seeds and you look at your land and you say, what is it I want to see pop up out of here? Because I know once I put this in here and do this watering, it's habit. I don't have to be here every 5 seconds. I'm consciously living somewhere away from this field. But this field is still doing whatever it does, whatever it's still growing the seeds that are placed in it. It's doing that all day, every day. So your seed are your thoughts, your feelings, your belief. What are you choosing to repeatedly and intentionally go over and over in your mind? To become aware of what it is you're doing and to choose which one of those you do. That is what prayer, affirmation, scripting, visualizing, journaling, doesn't matter what you do or how you do it. That is what you use the 5% for. So what does that mean? It means, for example, I'm always making I always make the right decisions. And if there's anything I need to do, it's done perfect. I always know everything I need to know and what to do about it. I'm always in the right place at the right time. At perfect time. Everything I set my hand to prospers. Everything I'm involved with succeeds. Those are just seeds. What you do is you plant those seeds, those thoughts, those feelings, those beliefs, those assumptions, those expectations. You plant those in your subconscious mind and you say them to yourself over and over and over and over and over. Not because you have to do that to make them work, but that's the way the law works. You do that with just because we're conscious of what we're doing doesn't mean it's more effort, and it doesn't mean we're trying to make something happen. We're just becoming aware of how this law works, and we're making it work for us instead in awareness and consciousness instead of against us. So what we're doing is we're choosing seed, we're choosing thoughts, feelings, beliefs that we are going to start introducing into the field of our mind, into our Garden of Eden. These are things that we're planting in our garden. And we're doing that intentionally, programming our mind. We are intentionally programming our mind. Now we're learning how to work with the law of electricity, the law of gravity, the law of water, the law of thermodynamics, the law of nature. Humans don't make laws, we make rules. That's why we change them every year, change them every half year, change them every decade, because we're always jockeying for position, jockeying for this, trying to make this, trying to put, right? Only nature really makes laws, because it doesn't care whether you're whatever you call yourself, identify yourself as, wherever you live, how it doesn't care. It's not against you. It's no respecter of persons. But if you don't know how to work with nature, it will feel like it's against you. The world will feel like it's against you. If you know how to work with it, it'll feel like it's for you. To somebody who can't swim, the ocean seems against them. To someone who can, they're out there surfing. They've learned how to work with the law of water. So they can have an experience that water will provide for anyone who knows how to use it, right? This 5% is for you to pick and choose what thoughts you are going to habitually, repeatedly, intentionally plant in your mind. So that when you're not thinking about those things, they're running in the background. They're doing the same things as the ones you don't think about, so to speak, the ones you didn't plant, but that you accepted, right? All we're doing now is not more. We're being conscious of the ones of what's in our field, what's in our land. We're being conscious of it. We are saying we are the farmer. The reason why I say other people and other environments, yeah, that's cool. That's good. But it's always best for you to do as much for yourself as you can, because whether you learn how to do it, whether you're learning how to do it in the beginning, or whether you realize that's the most important thing to do in the end, I try to tell you from the beginning, learn how to do it this way. It's always good to surround yourself in good environments and with good people. There is wisdom in the multitude of counsel. That's true. But in order to be your highest level of success and your greatest success, and to control your success ultimately and long lasting, you have to be the driver. At some point, you have to be the driver to be free. So that is what your 5% is for. The only difference between them and a mentor, them and an environment that's external to you, is that they've learned to do what we are learning to do. But they didn't get to do something different. They just may have learned it before you. Right? So surrounding ourselves with them is good, because there's nothing more powerful than an example. External to ourselves. Absolutely. However, these things, whatever you want to do, but these things are things like them, things that you turn inward and say, these are the seeds I'm going to plant in my mind. This is what I'm choosing to think. And I'm going to say it to myself over and over, or write it over and over, or think about it over and over. We become what we think. We are the physical expression of our most consistent, non-physical, of our most consistent, non-physical or invisible thoughts. What we see physically is just an outer reflection of what's going on inward, most constantly and most consistent. So that is what you use your 5% for. So that way, when life comes up and you're like, oh man, my tire's flat and I have to get to my kids' game. That 95, that's a conscious thought. But guess what's going on 95%? And how do you know what the 95% is? By what you say when it happens. That's when you get a peek in there. So one person says, oh God, when it rains, it pours. Oh, this always happens. Another person who's doing what we're doing, intentionally programming ourselves, they went to Costco. They bought that paper towel on Saturday when they had time, so that on Thursday when they were trying to dry their hands or wipe their mouth and they looked around, they didn't see anything right there next to them, they realized, oh, it's in the garage, or oh, the paper towels are on top of the refrigerator. Let me get up and go get them. So what happens is when you get a little flat tire, instead of saying, oh shoot, what am I going to do now? You say, oh, I already bought that. I've already intentionally programmed that. So now when my tire goes flat and I'm trying to get to my daughter's game, instead of saying, oh, when it rains, it pours, I got paper towels. I'll say, oh, man, everything's working out for me. Everything is working for my highest and best good. I have the victory in all things. Man, can't nothing happen to me. I'm always winning. Right? And like we said, I think it was Giovanni or somebody said earlier, whatever we're consciously focused on, whatever we're turning our attention to, that's what we're going to not only see, but see more of. It increases. The longer we focus, the intensity of what we're focused on increases, becomes more clear. So that 95%, when you program it, then you'll know what it is by what happens when something happens. Because that's what's coming out of the ground is what you planted. And when you have intentionally programmed your mind, you will start to actually now see those things. And if you got a 95% in your day, a 95% in your life, or 95% of your test, what grade is that?
A.
That's an A, right? Everybody can live with that. If you got a 95 or a 99%, they're both still an A. On your transcripts, people are only going to see an A. So you don't have to be perfect to get an A. You don't have to be perfect to be exceptional. To be superior, far above average. But you do have to be intentional. You do have to be intentional to get that 95. To be in control of that 95, you have to be intentional. You don't have to be perfect. You don't have to be brand new. You don't have to be, no, but you do have to be aware. You do have to choose intentionally to program this 95% with your 5%. You program your subconscious mind with your conscious mind by choosing what seeds you plant to it, what thoughts and feelings of belief that you consistently repeat and tell yourself. until they take hold. And they will, once they take hold, they will take off and run it, which you call habit. They'll take off. They will become what you call religious. When people say, I religiously work out, right? Or when people repeatedly, consistently, regularly, routinely, right? Where you can just almost assume they're doing it, that comes through repetition. Right? Everything that we make our own is through repetition. Somebody can give us something, we can rent something, but everything we make, all the knowledge that we make comes through repetition. You can be a visitor in a place, but in order to be a resident, you have to stay there. You have to repeatedly be there. Everything that we make our own, it comes through repetition. That is what you use your 5% of your mind for. That is what you use it for, and how you use it is by programming. Consciously choosing what I'm going to put in this 95%, because I know that it accepts whatever I put in it, and it executes whatever it accepts. It does, so you don't have to argue with it, fight with it, you just have to program it. Now, it may seem like you're arguing and fighting with it because it can take some time to get rid of a habit. It can. Some may go fast, some may go immediately, some may take a week or two, but it just depends on how long you thought that thing, how much you believe that thing. But that 5%, you have that this is your freedom. You can choose something different. You are not a prisoner. You are not a slave. You are not incapable. Sometimes it may feel like it, because that 95% is heavy, but you can change it. That's the only freedom you have, is the ability to choose. Like we talked about last week, through prayer or through affirmation, through scripting. It's just, you can call it whatever you want. It's just the ability to put yourself in a state that you want to be in. That's what you use the 5% for. That is how you do it. You intentionally program your mind by choosing the seeds that you put in your field, by choosing the thoughts that you're going to put in your mind, and you're going to let them stay in that field. You're going to let those thoughts stay in your mind, and you're going to water them with your words and your feeling. You're just going to be like, man, this is who I am. I know it may not look like it right now, it may not feel like it may not sound like it, but it is, because I get to choose. Well, that doesn't, you can be the greatest farmer in the world. If you have a dirt plot and you have seeds in your hand, and once you put them in, you water and you walk away, does anybody see anything in that moment? Would you have known they didn't put anything in there? Can they come over and point to you and be like, look, it's growing? No, but they understand the law that if you put it here, it's got to come out. As long as I put it in, and as long as I water it, I do what I'm supposed to do with it, it's got to come out. It's no choice. That's what your 95% is. It's that land. It's your Garden of Eden, that whatever seeds you put in it will come out. That's what you use your 95% for, to pick your seed. Does that make sense to everyone? Before I move on, is there any questions about that? Anything anybody wants to say?
Makes sense.
Okay. So last thing I will say about it is,
In the chat makes sense.
okay, good, is you can do this for yourself. No man's an island unto themselves. I'm not saying you don't need other people's help or you can't use other people's help. That's not what I'm saying. What I'm saying is, you're the farmer, it's your land, and it's your outcome. It is in your best interest to choose what you put in it. And if you decide to let environment, mentors, anyone or anything outside of you, if you decide to allow them to put something in your mind, in your field, plant a seed, you better be very aware of what you're allowing in your land. It's your land. It's your outcome, it's your seed, it's your life. And if you do this and do it well, you can have whatever seeds you plant will grow, period. Okay. Let's go back to something a little side note. Let's talk about this thing. Let's separate the difference between two things. Grinding versus effort. Somebody give me the difference between the two. Give me an example of the difference between the two. I can give you guys one right now. But somebody give me the difference between grinding and effort.
Time. Like there's the
Give me an
difference.
example of the difference.
You're investing more time into one than the other.
Okay? But give me an example of what one looks like. What is the difference between grinding and effort? Give me an example of what it would look like visibly.
A trail ride on horseback or a race.
Or a race? What do you mean a race?
A horse race, or
Okay.
or even like a bicycle race, a leisurely bicycle ride versus a bike race.
Okay. Who else?
One is kind of hustling, taxing.
Yeah, but what's an example? I want a physical example. When you
Um,
look at it, how can you tell which one is happening?
one is labor.
Gavin, Coach Lucky, Gavin has an answer for you. Hold on just a second.
All my boys back.
Difference between, what was it, grinding and effort?
Yes.
Difference between grinding and effort is when someone who's a grinder can work tirelessly and see no return.
Okay.
Just something off the
And then what is effort?
effort. I passed the mic on Sparkle Bailey.
So, okay. I have a-
Meticulously going after something with purpose and passion and intention. Not
Okay,
just
but
to
my
do it
point is, how
tirelessly
can you?
over.
Okay, but when you're looking at someone, how can you tell the difference between whether they're grinding or they're making an effort?
One, you're mindless, and the other one, you're intentional.
Yeah, but you still didn't give me. I want an example, a physical example. Like Leslie gave me a physical example. I want a physical example. I want you to see the difference, and I want you to see that you know the difference. And I want you to see that they actually are different. So don't talk about them like they're the same, because they're not.
Michelle put in the chat construction work, jackhammer.
Okay. So let me give you guys some examples. Let's just use construction work. If I don't know what I'm doing, which one of those you think I'm doing?
Grinding.
If I go out there working construction, which one of those do you think I'm doing if I don't know what I'm doing?
Effort.
Well, okay, watch this. So if you see, like when you see your kids playing little league, anything, baseball, basketball, football, anything else, right? Both of these are actions. So both of these, you could be sweating. Both of these, you could be sweating. Okay, but which one? And so so both of these are action. They're both sweating. You're both moving. But which one of these? How can you tell the difference between the two? Well, if you see a 5 or 6 year old playing basketball at the YMCA, right? They're out there sweating, but they're out there, like Gavin said, they're out there doing something with no guaranteed return. It looks like they're just out there killing themselves, each other, everything. They don't know what's happening. They're hitting each other in the face, jamming their finger, getting hit with the ball, running over each other, running out of bounds, traveling, double dribbling. They're breaking every rule in the book. New rules that don't exist, they're breaking. They're doing everything, right? Running out of bounds, running over each other, and everything else. But they're out there doing it. They're out there doing it though. They're out there doing it. They're doing something. These are 5-year-olds at the YMCA. Did anybody pay to watch this? Anybody pay to get into this? No, because if you had to, you probably wouldn't even go to your own kids' games. Like, man, I am not about to, you are not, absolutely not. I'm gonna watch them outside the fence. Look, mommy can see you, and you can cross the street. I am not paying to watch this, right? 5-year-olds at the YMCA playing basketball grinding. Effort. They're out there sweating too. Yeah, but effort, like we talked about last week, effort is Steph Curry. Yeah, it takes effort to play basketball. You still gotta move. But he ain't out there looking like them. Not doing the same thing. Doesn't look the same. You pay for it, you watch it, you buy his jersey, people going to the games. He got his own shoe. He's making an effort, he's still moving and doing something. But his level of skill, right, has developed out of grinding into just, I gotta put an effort in, I have to do something, right? But just because I have to do something doesn't mean it's killing me to do it. It doesn't mean that I'm not gonna get a return from it. Steph Curry makes $50 million a year. Does that sound like grinding to anybody? It's not like he's just hoping for something to just work out, right? The great philosopher Gavin said grinding is right making an effort with no return, no guaranteed return. Well, he got a guaranteed return because guess what? NBA contracts are, what do they say? Guaranteed. So he ain't doing that. But the reason his stuff is guaranteed is because he's not doing that. He's making an effort. You got to try, you have to do something, but that doesn't mean you're killing yourself or anyone else to do it. And the reason you're doing it is because you know who you are. You have matured out of grinding into an effort. Now, here's what I mean by maturation. Like when Leslie talked about riding on a horse trail and horseback, or when you talk about, just think about if we talk about grinding like it's some kind of medal or some kind of award, like it's some kind of situation that should be honored and revered and says that you really mean something. Say that you're really a good person and that you really wanted, you hungry. Like Les Brown, like used to say back in the day, you got to be hungry. And it says like you haven't slept for 3 days, 2 nights, like you're on a vacation, 3 days, 2 nights, no sleep. And you're like, we're acting like that's a big thing. But here's what I mean when I say I want to separate the two. As you mature, there becomes a line that you start to cross. You go from in here to down here. Now, how do we know that? Can you imagine if people right now Veronica loves to go on cruises. People love to go on cruises. And they go for 10 days and everything like that. Do you think people on a sailboat going from Europe to Africa, do you think they thought they were on a cruise? Right? Does anybody think they thought like, man, I'm about to go 30 days, 30 nights in the open air, in the water. And yeah, we got some meat, we got a little bit of something to drink, right? Does that sound like Carnival Cruise or Princess Cruises?
Absolutely not.
Absolutely not. Okay, but why not?
Because it doesn't have balcony.
Okay, what do you mean? That's all they had.
The ship is not the same size. The vessel is not the same size.
Okay, so what is that a reflection of? What is that? Say again.
For this, you need this. For that, you need that.
Okay, but what did you need something new for?
To get you there.
You already were getting there with the whole thing.
To experience at a certain level, like you needed to be a certain type of vessel.
Right. So what I'm saying is okay, there was mail back in the day. Everybody remember mail when you had to wait for a letter back? Anybody remember that? You write your cousin in the summer and you got to wait for a letter back. So you write your letter, by the time you get something back, it's at the end of the month.
Right.
Took you 3 weeks, 3.5 weeks for one letter to go up and back. You write and they write back, right? But then that was good enough for us to communicate. Why do we have evening?
Fast.
Okay, so then if you could walk somewhere, why do we have a car? You ride horses, those were good enough. How can why do we have cars then?
Advancement. We've advanced in how we do things.
So we've advanced. Would you say that's voluntarily or involuntary?
Voluntarily.
And would you say that is, so then why are we doing that?
Because we want to live smarter and not harder.
So then why are we praising the heart?
I'm not praising the heart, so I don't know.
Well, I'm talking about as a society, right? Generally, why do we praise the harder? Why do we praise? And I'm saying it to say this: why do we praise the harder, the less effective, the less efficient? Well, we praise anything that we have right now, right? Because it's all we got. But in our natural maturing mind, our natural God mind, it's always forever upward and onward. We're supposed to get better. We're supposed to think better. We're supposed to live better. We're supposed to be healthier and happier. It's a natural inclination. It's our natural proclivity to improve something. It's natural. It's not natural to stay as we are. We couldn't go from here to Alaska in 10 days. You couldn't go around half of the Caribbean in 7 days. You couldn't get to the Caribbean in 70 days. You couldn't, most people died on the ships that they were on. People don't talk about that historically. Most people died on the boats. That's why they took so many people. It was just a numbers game. But part of the reason they died is because they took too many people. It was almost like, dang if you do, dang if you don't. Right? But because it took so long to get there. So what we did was we said, what is a better way to make this journey? What's a better way to do this thing? What I'm saying is, it is our natural God mind to be advancing onward and upward, to make things better for us, easier for us. That's not a sign of weakness, it's a sign of intelligence. However, when we use those things as when we use them as a sign of we made it, instead of a sign of, man, we made it. Like we actually did this thing, not like it's over. When we use it as a sign as it is over, then we get stuck, we get stifled, and that's not a natural progression of life. My point is that we make all this effort and we place all of this value in hard work and all this other stuff over here, all this hard work, but our natural inclination is to make things easier for ourselves. That's what every invention ever made did, was to find it, to make it easier, to make it better. Do you know when people started wearing high heels? Do you know when men too, wearing like elevated shoes? Do you know why people, I don't want even say when, do you know why people started doing that? Anybody know?
High heels were initially invented, I thought, for to be able to keep your feet in the stirrups on riding a horse.
Okay.
It was for men, right?
Yeah.
Okay. So cowboy, that's why they wore boots, right? That's why they wore boots. But then the people who have high heels on, those are not boots. So why did they make them? They made them back in the late 18, early 1900s in Europe and in America, because everyone was riding horses, right? And people were rolling down the street or the block in horses. Horses use the bathroom. So when you get off the horse, what do you think you're stepping in? And they were originally made for women, because when women got off the horse and you had those long gowns on, you were stepping in and your dress was stepping in that. So they wore elevated shoes to keep their dresses off the ground. That's what they became mainstream for. That's what people who weren't riding horses, that's why they were cowboy boots. Those were different type of, they were using horses for different things, right? These people were in stagecoaches and they were in things like that back then. But horses used the bathroom wherever they were going. So when you got out, people were stepping in a whole bunch of stuff. So they used these shoes to have elevated platforms so that their clothes didn't get drugged down in it as well. My point is, every invention we've ever made, necessity is the mother of invention, as they say, right? But the reason we make it is to make our lives easier. And so what I'm saying to you is, then why do we brag about, or why do we worship this form of perverted hard work when our natural inclination is to make things in life easy? Why do we think things have to be hard for them to be correct? When we're thinking in our right mind, we find the easiest way to do something. Because that's what the best mind does. It doesn't mean you didn't have to put in effort to do it, meaning you didn't have to screw something in or blow towards something, or you didn't have to no, it doesn't mean that you don't have a physical participation with something. But that's not the same thing as doing something with no hope of return, or little to no hope of return, or unsure if there's a hope of return, or doing something that's going to take the most out of you, that's going to take you the longest to get there, that most people are going to die if you ever get there, and all the other things. My point is that when you're thinking properly, you're always finding ways to make things easier, not as a result of laziness, as a result of wisdom and maturity. You find ways to become intuitive, to tap into your intuition, and you intuitively find ways to do the same thing better, more effectively, more efficiently. So something takes you a day instead of a week. You can go around Europe in 10 days instead of trying to get to Europe in 10 months. That you can have a ship that has an engine instead of a sailboat rocking back and forth. Right? Hoping that you get there correctly. Or soon, or at all. Why do you think all the earliest navigators, a lot of them got lost? Because they still had to figure out the gyres, still had to figure out the currents. And even then you had to have wind. You know, the best boat, put all the sails, all the sails up. If there's no wind, guess what you do? Sitting right there, just might as well be a little floaty, right? So we're always finding ways to do things better, that's my point. And my point is that when you're thinking correctly, and like Leslie was talking about again, another thing she was saying is how sometimes because of the order of operations we take, we're in such a hurry to do something physically, that if we would take 10 seconds to think first, we could do something in 10 seconds that would save us 10 minutes. Would save us stress, worry, fear, anxiety, but we're in such a hurry to do because it's so important that we don't ever stop to think about, if this is so important to do it, isn't it important to do it correct? Right? Like all of us young people when we were young, running out, do your homework, okay, did it, ran outside, played with our friends. Our parents look at it and be like, yeah, that's not gonna work, come back in. You're in such a hurry to get done that now you gotta do it 2 or 3 times, and then you end up missing all your time with your friends. We're in such a hurry to do things, and everything we do, we rush out to do physically with very little thought, if at all, and most of that thought is not correct because it's habitual, because we haven't intentionally programmed our mind. So we're just out here running off of what we see, what we hear. Most people are doing it wrong. That's why most people are not living well, and they're mad at the 1% or the 5% or the 3%, because most people their 95% is killing them. It's making them poor, keeping them more poor, making them sick, keeping them sick, making them mad, keeping them mad, everything else. Our natural inclination is to be ever onward, ever upward, ever forward. When you sit down and you give some time to your thought, you'll come up with things will come to you won't believe. If you just give yourself a minute, is the point. But my point is, and the reason we do that is to not do something, but to do it better. So we have more time to do it or something else, instead of spending all our time just trying to get this one thing done. All those kids that are playing basketball 5 years old out there grinding. They're out there going, dang, they're killing themselves out there, right? Nobody's questioning their efforts, But you realize that's all they have is effort. That's all grinding is. It's just effort with no plan, no thought, no idea, no concept, and no guarantee. In case you didn't know, I know everybody's not a sports person. I get it. But in case you didn't know, nobody's playing for free. Just to let you know, in case you don't have to know much more. Forget the rules of the sport. Nobody's playing for free. No. Nobody out there, as much as they tell you they love it, they don't love it that much. There's nobody out there for free. So everything we do is with an intention on return. It's just what is it? But if you don't have one because you're too good, or if you don't have one because you're too ignorant, or you don't have one because you don't know you should, or you don't think you should, all you're doing is grinding. All you're doing is putting in a lot of physical exertion and hoping it ends out. All you're doing is playing the lottery every day. Just with your body instead of your money. Which is irreplaceable. Money's replaceable, your body is not. You only get one of these cats. Right? So my point is, is that there's a difference between grinding and effort. Effort is just something you're doing to participate. But it's with some wisdom, it's with some skill, it's with some, you're Steph Curry. When he's shooting the ball, nobody thinks he's out there grinding. Nobody thinks like, oh, sure. Everybody's like, yeah, he shoot it. I expect him to make it. He expects to make it. Like the 5-year-olds, nobody expects them to make it. It's not even your own son, and they're on a different team and you clap just because they made it. Everybody's just happy for the kids because nobody expects them to do much of anything. Even though they're sweating, they're going hard, they're probably playing harder than the people get paid. But they don't have the same skill. They don't have the same level of awareness. They're not tapped in, so their body doesn't function that way. So what I'm saying all this to say is that when you are tapped into your mind properly, when you are thinking properly, when you are sitting down and giving yourself some time to figure out, what do I want? What do I want from this thing? What do I want the outcome to be? What am I intentionally programming my mind to get this outcome to be? Then you work from that end. So everybody talks about, let me say it another way. Everybody talks about grinding. Everybody talks about like it's some kind of thing. Everybody acts like this or that. Everybody thinks it's some kind of thing. Okay. So if we talk about grinding and we're lost, what is one thing we've invented to help ourselves find something?
Trackers.
Maps, GPS.
GPS. Navigation. But you're lost. Just figure it out.
Maps.
Look at the star. Look at the sky. Maps. Okay, good. But maps, great.
I think that's what.
Okay, maps. So my point is, we're always inventing things to help ourselves make things easier and things like that. But if you use any of these things right now, you're not grinding. If you're finding a way to make something easier, you can just X yourself off that list. If you use Google, X yourself off that list. If you use anything, because remember, or if you use online books, right? You read online books instead of going to the library or the bookstore. You can X yourself off that list. You can just X yourself off that list. That's just Gavin. My boy Gavin knows what that is. Yeah, just Gavin. Just knock it off. These are all things to make your life easier, make things more simple. Remember when you had to go to the library?
Yeah.
Remember when you had to wait for the publication to come out? You're like Black Hair or Yo MTV Raps, or remember when you had to wait for something to come out? Remember that? Remember when you had to go to the library and you had to hope the book you wanted was there? Hope they had it. Then hope it was there. Remember that? Remember when you had to check out the little card and say, yeah, remember that? Come on, man. You guys remember? Now you can just get online. They got online books you can buy, free PDFs of books. Okay, well then you're not grinding. Knock it off. You're not a grinder. You're not grinding. Knock it off. Right? Remember you had to go, remember you had to do all this stuff? Yeah, Blockbuster. Right? Remember that? Remember you had to work for your stuff back in the day. You had to work for everything. Everything. You go out, you eat fast food, knock it off. You can come off that list too. Nobody out here is grinding in their right mind. You're only grinding when you're out of your mind. When you're not thinking properly. There's no reason to do it. You wouldn't do it if you were thinking properly. Because every time you find the most effective and efficient way to do what you're doing. You don't stop doing it. You don't abdicate yourself from doing it. No, you just find the best way to do it. You realize, there's gotta be a better way. And we call that an invention. But even that is not made up. It just means to stumble upon. Invenio, Latin, means to stumble upon. That's what invention means. It means to stumble upon. It does not mean to create. It means to stumble upon. Everything is already created. What are you stumbling upon? Your consciousness becomes aware that something exists. In this case, called an idea. And an idea is a non-physical thing from a non-physical place, which is what you are. And then you bring it to your physical apparatus called your mind. And then you use your physical apparatus called your hands or your body to assemble it. You did not create it. Your body assembles, it doesn't create anything. So when you're grinding, that just means you're using your body and not your mind. Using your behind and not your mind, and that's why your behind is worn out.
Walk away. Drop
Mic
the-
drop.
Just
Marker
walk
has
away.
been dropped.
Just don't come back. Just tell everybody you'll be back next week.
That's it. I need to give you guys a week to think about that. You know, your parents, you get in trouble and then they close the door and they say, I'm gonna give you some time to think on it. And you're like, oh shit. Right? And you're in your own room, the door's closed, but it's just more quiet than it's ever been. You can hear every noise in the house because you're on high alert. You don't want them to buzz back in the room without you ready. Right? So you're sitting there like some kind of track star, like just ready, waiting for them to come back in. You sitting there ready, like, yeah, you can catch me slipping, right? Then you start getting sleepy and you just ready, you ready for a good, at least half the night. But I think my mom I don't know if she drank tea or coffee. She used to wait us out. Boy, and you'd be nice and sleep. I mean, it'd be the darkest of the darkest of the dark at night. And all of a sudden, you just felt this breeze of cold. And the sheets were coming off. And boy, it was pie down. Boy, man, I went from horizontal to vertical in 0.0000. I mean, I was standing up alert. I was like a ballerina. I was like Mike Jack in his prime. I was moonwalking, tiptoeing. I was doing everything in the dark room straight out of my sleep. I could see everything like a cat. Boy, I could jump on a figurine and bounce off of it. I was so athletic at the time. Man, adrenaline will get you, boy, to make you a superhuman, right? But right, so I'm just saying all that to say, right? We create things all the time to make life easier for us. Stop making it hard for yourself. Stop thinking that you have to do everything with your body before you use your mind. You're not gonna ever. It's never gonna work. And on half of the failures that we think we have, it's not because we couldn't do it. It's because what we call our body. We're not using our mind. We're not using the greatest faculty we have. We won't listen. We won't stop and listen. Just like we won't stop and listen to our parents until it's too late. Well, we won't stop and get an idea until it's too late. Right? Until now, you got to deal with this, you got to deal with that, when you could have taken 5 seconds, 10 seconds. So think before you act, think before you speak, right? Use your highest level of faculty. It's not your body. Those are animals' highest level of faculties, is their physical body. Bears and lions and tigers. But guess what? Guess who has a zoo? The people with the weakest physical presence are the ones running the zoo. Full of bears and sharks and tigers and whales and everything else up in there. Because we are the highest form of thinking. That's what God is thought, is consciousness, is the highest level of it. And we in humanity are made in that image and likeness, not physically, mentally. We have the highest level of consciousness moving on this planet. It is us. We don't have the highest level of body, strength, speed, nothing else. We don't even live as long as some animals. Some animals seem like they live forever, right? But it's our consciousness, it's our ability to think. We have the highest level of thought capability. And the more that we access, the easier our life is. Now we're walking on life not walking on us. It's not walking on you, it's not walking on me. We're not underneath it. Right? All right. That makes sense, everybody? Anybody have any questions on that? Stop the cat. Knock it off. Knock it off. You guys are getting me upset? Knock it off. Okay. All right. All right. This one, this is gonna take it, this is gonna lead us to the end today. But I'm going to, we're gonna take it up. We're gonna take it up a little bit today. At the end. We're gonna take it up. What was that song? Who sings that? We're gonna take it high. Yeah. Who's that? You know what I'm talking about, right? You know what I'm saying? We about to do that. That's right. Wake up. Pay attention. We're getting it going. All right. Here we go. So, have you, if you know, you probably know someone, or even you may be what we call like a tinkerer. And a tinkerer means, what I mean by that is somebody who's always working on something. Maybe a tinkerer, like maybe you're a singer. You just like to sing. You just sing when you're folding the clothes, sing when you're washing the dishes, you sing when you're walking down the street. You're tinkering, meaning you're just always engaging in something in a way that isn't necessarily profound, but you're just always engaging in this thing. You're always playing with this thing.
Amanda says she's a tinker.
Yeah, right. Everybody has their thing. And some people are always tinkering with their cars. They've always got the hood up, always looking under it. Now, and they're a mechanic and they just love it. There's never anything wrong with the car. Oh, what's wrong with the car? Oh, nothing, man. Just working on some stuff. They just like the act of the thing. Right? Some people are like that within any area of life, whether it's singing or working on your car, or whether you're a painter, or whether you're whatever. There's this thing that you like that you just like to, you're just constantly engaging yourself with because you like it. Right? You like the way it makes you feel. You like the way you feel when you're doing it. You like the way you just like it. You just do it just for no reason. Some people are just knitting all the time. Some people are just reading all the time, but they just have this thing that they like. Okay. Have you ever noticed that when you tinker with something, when you're always engaging and engaged with this thing that you tinker with like that, that you start to understand it better, you start to know it better, you start to get different ideas about what it is, what you are, how that goes together, different ways to do this thing. You start to find out different things about it. It's almost like a relationship. The more you spend time with it, the better you get to know it, the better you understand it. You start to understand it, you almost feel like it talks to you. You almost feel like you talk to it. You just feel like you have a relationship that you just have even an unspoken understanding of, right? You just start to things make sense to you about this thing that other people who don't tinker with this would never know or think or understand, but just because they don't spend the time with it that you do. It's a relationship, just like any other, like someone else's spouse. You don't know, you just know of them, but you don't know them, right? Just like a brother or sister or whatever else it is, right? So for me, I'm like a mind tinker. Like I'm always tinkering with my mind. I'm always thinking like, okay, what else can I think? What else is possible? Now, if I thought that, is that real? Is that true? Well, you know what, let me try it. So I'm like my own little mind scientist, right? I'm like one of those scientists you see in the movie that comes up with some potion and takes it themselves. And then their leg stops working, and then you walk in the door and they're laying on the ground or something like that, and then they wake up 10 minutes later, like, what happened? And you'd be like, well, you're in here and you were a bear. And you're like, I was a what? Right? But they tried it. Like they don't even know what happened. They're like a nutty professor, right? They're just out here just trying everything on themselves.
Yeah.
Right? So for me, I'm like a mind tinker. Like I'm always thinking like, okay, what is real here? What's not real? How does this work? Well, if they did it, how do they do that? What do you have to? And so I'm always thinking about that. And like I said, anytime you tinker long enough, you start to get ideas. You start to get understanding of something that you didn't understand before. You start to get ideas, right? So I'm gonna give you this. We don't talk about a lot of specific things unless I'm working with you specifically. We talk about a lot of general things because it's almost like general education. If you can get certain concepts down, you can apply it to any area of your life that you want. That's what I want the most. I don't care what you want, I just want you to have it. So my intent always is to give you enough information that you can take and make specific to you. Once you understand the principle, you can apply it to yourself specific. But today, I'm gonna get real specific. Give it to you one good time. I skipped something else I was gonna talk about, but it's okay. All right, so who now, I know this will create some feelings. Depending on where you stand, this will create some feelings. All right. Who knows what this is? Now, I'm giving you advance warning. It's a trick question. And when I say, I'm not talking about I'm not talking about it as we know it. I'm talking about it from the tinkering perspective, like you for a minute you had to be in your zone. You had to see something in this car you never saw before, something in this yarn that you never, and you started thinking like, what is this?
Owing someone or owing something?
Okay, let me. Debtor. Let me use another word. What is it? Same word, debt, borrow, debtor, borrower, the person who owes, person. Okay, well, what is this? What is this? Oh, we're gonna finish high as Mount Olympus today.
Does it represent being in need?
Okay.
Limited.
Okay.
Negative?
Okay. So watch this. Need.
Owing.
Negative. What did you someone say?
I said,
Need.
Owing.
Owing. Yeah.
What did I say? Limited.
Limited.
A lack.
Lack. Okay, watch this. Okay, so debt, borrower. I'm just gonna move this so we have more space. Okay, debt. Debt, borrower. Okay. Lack, limited, need, negative, owing. Look at those words. What are these words in relationship to this?
Those words at the bottom create debt. Those words at the bottom, do they create the debt?
Okay. Okay. But if you owe, you're already in debt.
Right.
Right. So what are these words in relation to this?
It's the state of being in debt.
So
They're synonyms. It's synonymous with debt.
synonymous.
They're feelings that we get because of it.
They are
Expressions. Yeah.
These are expressions of that. This creates that. Now you got to figure out what I say. You got to figure out what is this. Everything you described on this list is true, but they're expressions. Your body is an expression. It is a physical expression of your non-physical experience. So when I said last week, you're God, and I said, but that's not your body is the expression of the fact that God is in it. That's the only way your body lives. When God steps out, the party's up. The gig is up. Your body is the expression. Lack, limitation, need, negative, owing. These are all expressions of debt. Your body is the expression of God. So debt, let's just say, would be the God of these things. These would be the human, this would be humanity. One of these would be human. All these collectively would be humanity. They're expressions of God. Debt then what is debt? What is debt? I don't expect you to know, but I want your mind, I want to get your mind clicking.
It's source.
Okay? Anybody else?
Bondage.
All right, let's watch this. What is debt? So debtor, lender. Then what is a lender?
Someone who has.
Is it authority? Authority?
Okay, so lender, debtor. Lend, debt. Lend, debt. What are these? You can't have one without the other, correct?
Right.
You gotta owe somebody, right? Somebody had to lend you something that you feel you owe. So then, what are these? And these are true for everybody. So it's not personal. So these aren't you, so to speak.
The
States of
terms?
being.
So I
States
said,
of, states of being.
states of being. Yes, very close. Yes. They are
Oh. Persons, yeah.
the
identity.
rules. They're rules. Debt is a role. It is something that is occurring, that is being played. When you're in debt, you are doing what?
Playing the role of being in debt.
You're playing the role. When you are a lender, you are doing what?
Playing the role of being a lender.
You're playing the role. How do we know these are roles? Well, because anybody can play them. Anybody can play them. They're not personal. I didn't put Leslie up here. I didn't put Marcus up here. I didn't put Gavin up here. I didn't put Sparkle up here. We all understand what these things are because they're not personal. They're just roles. That's all they are. States of mind, yes, that too. They are roles. Okay, but you need them both. These are inextricably linked. You cannot have one without the other. Is that correct? Okay.
Yeah.
How do you get out of debt?
Pay back.
You switch your role.
Who said that?
Oh yeah.
LaToya?
I think.
Who said that?
Yeah, that was me.
Okay, what do you mean by that?
So if I don't want to be in the role of being the person in debt, I would need to be in the role of being the person that is the lender
Or what else?
or the person that's not in debt.
The person that's not involved at all. It's not in the equation, right? If you have a sister or a brother, if they're in debt or the lender, that has nothing to do with you. So you can be involved as a debtor, involved as a lender, or not involved at all in your world, so to speak.
Right.
Does that make sense? Okay. So that means you said so. That means we would eliminate this role. We would cross it out. Okay. How do we know we can do that? This is where it starts to get real. This is where I want you to understand. Oh, you get out of debt. Just think better. Just think different. Oh, you can get out. That's not. Yeah, that's true. But that's not what I'm saying. I want you to really understand what I'm saying and why I'm saying it. I want you to really understand not only what I'm saying. I want you to know why. I want you to know why. Then you'll understand the how. Then it won't feel like a thing to you. You'll be like, oh, okay, that makes sense. I can do that. Because it won't feel like some kind of Herculean task. It won't feel like you're burning candles and incense and you're just gonna be looking at the moon for 2 minutes straight and then there's gonna be a manifestation. No, this is not weird. This is just maybe unfamiliar, but once we get into it, I want you to understand. I'm touching on this for a reason. I want you to understand something. So being a lender is a role, being a debtor is a role. You can get out of debt by saying, I no longer want to play that role. Just like an actor says, you know what? I'm retired. I don't want to play that role anymore. Right? But you can play 1,000 roles. How many roles has Denzel played? Robert De Niro played? Viola Davis played? How many roles have they played? They're still the same person. But they're just playing a role. But good actors play the role well. Right? But you can stop playing that role. But you can get out of debt by not playing the role. How do we know that's true? How is that true? Why is that true? How do you get out of this by realizing that you can? What is it that makes this possible? If you can get this part, you will free yourself.
The 5% you were talking about earlier?
Say it again.
5%, the mentality switch, like being the 5% of your brain, like that mentality, like that taking over, like that keeps you in a position of either as a lender or just not in debt at all, or you're in the game.
Okay. Oh yeah, it ain't gonna be that easy today though.
Monique put in the chat.
Oh no.
Intention.
Oh no. Oh, it ain't gonna be that easy today. No, I told you didn't we put the song on? We gonna take it higher. Who was that? It's James Brown. No, we going up. No, we going up the mountain today, ladies and gentlemen. We are going up, the boys and girls, ladies and gentlemen, alley cats, dogs, and wigs and mustaches. We going up today. How do you know that you can get out of this? What gives you the right to walk out of that role? What gives you the right to change your mind? Huh?
Say that again.
Decision.
Awareness.
Decision, Dre said.
Okay, decision awareness.
I do.
Okay. We still, yeah, keep going. You got to keep going up, up, up.
The I am. Somebody said that in a comment.
Yeah.
Monique put I am
We pick who we want to be.
Because
Come on, coach.
like we talked about, right? Because we talked about last week, we are God, not the human body. That what makes the human body alive. The in us. God. I am. Consciousness. Right? Going up. Who is the lender? What does the lender say they are? If this was a whole sentence and they said lender, what would they have to put before it? I am, and you can put the lender. I am in debt. What do both of these have in common? I am. So God is the lender and the debtor. God is playing all the roles. There's only God. There's it. There's only one being that has fractured itself into all of us so that it can have someone else to talk to, and then gave itself a name and a persona, which makes it think it is really different than itself. Just like when we were young, we go out on the grass and we start thinking we're cowboys and Indians, cops and robbers, or whatever else it is. And for those couple minutes, we really think we are that. Or we go out and play our favorite sports teams, or we dance like our favorite star, or whatever else it is. For that one moment, we think we're real. We think we're that person for that one moment when we occupy that. But we're still only, and especially if we're by ourselves, we got to really learn how to play. Because it's just you. You got to learn how to be different people to entertain yourself. Right? What I'm saying is, it's only God. God is everything. It's the only thing. Fracturing itself, believing itself to be something else. It is the Hebrew word Elohim. It means one made up of many. There's only one power playing all the different roles. So in order for it to be in debt, it's got to have a lender. In order for it to lend, it's got to have somebody to lend it to, called the debtor. They're just roles. But it's the only one to play that role. So when it gets tired of playing that role, who's gonna tell them you gotta keep gonna tell it you gotta keep going? Who's gonna tell it, well, you can't stop now? You're playing both. It's just you. When you're a little kid playing with your Barbie and your Ken or your action figures or whatever else it is, and you're making those two things do something, who started that game? Who ends the game? So then, but it's still only you playing with the two things. You are one being, fracturing yourself into a lot of humanity. You have breathed your breath of life into all of each individual human, collectively called humanity, but it's still only one being. And in order for it to have someone to play with, it had to think it's someone else to make that real. So there's a veil. There's a thing that makes us, there's like a cloth, like the Wizard of Oz. And our humanity's on one side of it, as we think, and there's this veil called our persona, the character, the mask we wear. And we don't realize that if we were to turn around, it's us. But we just put on a mask, almost like it's Halloween. Mom, Dad, guess who I am? Yeah, Kenny, you're Spider-Man. I know. Right? But as you get older, you realize there's no Santa Claus. As you get older, you realize there's no this or there's no that. But when you're young, you think there is. And there's nothing wrong with that. It's just a part of your youth. I didn't tell my daughter there was no Santa Claus. I didn't tell her there was no, I let you figure it out. But there was no reason for me to tell her it wasn't it. Oh, whatever. Okay, cool. When she dressed up when she was young, oh, Dad, look, guess what I am? Oh, I don't know. What do you think? I don't know. Some costumes I don't know. But I know generally, right? So this mask we're wearing, called our names, is nothing but our Halloween costume. It's just something that makes us think that we're something different for a little bit. But we are still the being playing all the roles. There's only us. There's only one God. What does it say in the book? Hear, O Israel, the Lord our God is one. One God, in all, above all, and through all. One consciousness, in all, above all, and through all. There are not 10 different consciousnesses. There are 10 different humans. There are 10 different identities being played, but it's one identity just thinking itself to be something else. There's water, hot water, cold water. There's water and tea, water and soda. There's one substance that is being used to have different outcomes. What I'm saying to you is you can walk out of this role of debt by realizing that you are the debtor and the lender. Right now, you just signed up in your life, if you're the debtor, if you're in debt that you don't want to be in, you've signed up to play the role of debtor. You can now say, hey, you know what? Appreciate it. Thank you for the opportunity. I think I'm out of this one. I'm gonna either go onto the lender side or I'm just gonna step out of this equation personally. Just specific, I don't really want to be either one. Fine, cool. I can step out. So then when we talk about consciousness, now we're coming back down the mountain in the sense of, okay, if I can do that, if I'm the only person playing both roles, I am is the lender and I am is the debtor. So you're not talking to even anyone but yourself. You are talking to another reflection of yourself that has to play the role that you need to play the role that you want to play. Somebody has to be Barbie, somebody has to be Ken. But Barbie and Ken are not living things in and of themselves. I am the living thing making Barbie and Ken alive. I'm the living thing making the lender and the debtor alive. So I can decide who switches roles. If one person just no longer plays at all, if both people don't play, if when I start, if I want them to play different things now. That's why you remember all those action figures and they had different outfits. It's the same thing. It's just like different roles, different states of mind. It's just a different outfit. But you need another version of yourself to play the role because you can't have a debtor without a lender. And you can't be a lender without a debtor. They're both being played by God. They're both being played by the one source. And that source decides in itself, based on this personality, oh, okay, I want to be a debtor. I want to be in debt. Now, people don't think that consciously, but we get used to certain roles And we think it's just natural play, or everybody in the play when they're young wants to be the king or the queen, right? Everybody goes for certain roles because they just get used to it. And everybody around them play the king and the queen. Every play they've been to, they're thinking, where's the king and the queen? We're playing Jurassic Park. Where's the king and the queen? There's no queen in Jurassic Park. There's no king in Jurassic Park. It's Jurassic Park. But we just go for certain roles because we're used to them being played and played out. But when you realize who you are, then you realize that you're the lender and the debtor. They're just roles that you are physically playing, that you don't have to play, that you can actually back down the mountain, change your consciousness and say, you know what? I ain't gotta be mad. Cool, I play this role of debtor. All right, maybe I volunteer somebody, volunteer, man, I listen to somebody and I got in. Okay, cool. But now I realize I can walk away from this role because I'm only walking away from an aspect of my identity that I no longer want to keep alive. And once I remove my conscious from my entire identity, that's called death physically, right? But if I remove an aspect of my consciousness from an aspect of my identity, from a certain part of myself, that part dies. Because it takes me to be the lender. It takes I am. There is no lender without I am. There is no debt or debtor without I am. Nobody in the graveyard is in debt. Even if it wouldn't apply to them. Debt doesn't apply to the dead. Now, in medieval times, boy, they used to exhume bodies all the time, put people back on trial when they were dead. They used to do it all the time. I don't know if you guys knew that. They used to do it all the time. They put kings back on trial, dead. I mean, dead as a doorknob. Dress them up and everything. Yeah, they used to do it all the time. Oh yeah, people wanted justice. Death wasn't gonna stop you from being on trial, if that's what you thought. Oh, they used to do it all the time. What I'm saying though is that these are just roles. And you can walk away from it because God is playing all the roles. I am is playing all the roles. I am is you. I am is just believing itself now. The you is believing itself to be in debt. It's now, that is the role it's playing. It's going like this. This is my script. I am in debt. I am a lender. I am rich. I am poor. I'm successful. I'm unsuccessful. It's just a script or role that the actor, the persona, the person, the mask or the character. That's why these words are so important for you to understand. Person. The word person comes from the Latin word persona. It means character or mask. These are what people were called when they were acting on the stage. It was a persona. It was just something they were being for the moment. It was their image. It wasn't them, it was their image. It was the role they were playing on the stage. But once that play was up, or once they no longer decided to act, then that role either died or had to be played by someone else. It did not have to be played by them. Your character or mask is your name, whatever that is. Giovanni, Veronica's, both of them that are here, Marcus, Mona, everybody, Leslie, everybody, Gavin, all of them. These are just roles you're playing. There's no one else to play it but you. So you can walk away from that role, back down the mountain by saying, okay, I decided to let go of this role. I'm now going to decide I'm going to pick up a new role. You know what? I don't really like this role. I think I'm going to pick up, oh yeah, training day. Yeah, let me see what this is about. Yeah, I think I like that. Yeah. And you write off something new now. You now become something else. And when you first get access to that script, do you know all the lines? No. Is it familiar or comfortable? No. But how does any actor get familiar with the lines of a script? How do we do that?
Rehearse.
How do they do that?
Rehearse.
Rehearse. What is a way to rehearse?
Speak what you want. Speak the I am that you want to be over and over again.
Rehearse, right? Rehearse. Rehearse your lines based on your role. Rehearse them. How do you do that? Like we talked about, whether you want to call it prayer, making a different decision, Then you're going to, and not that you have to, but I'm talking, then you're going to do your affirmations, or do your scripting, or do your journaling, or do, it doesn't matter what you do, whatever it takes for you to recite your lines. I don't care if you recite them in the car, in the bathroom, in the shower, on the toilet. I don't care if you recite them on a walk. I don't care if you recite them at your desk. I don't care where you recite them. This is how you become that character. This is how you take on that new role. That's how you drop the old one and get the new one. It's only you. You have to play all the roles. And you know what? I want to know what it's like to lend money to somebody. If the old school God in the sky said that, it's got to create something in order to lend it to. Right? So then whatever it created that it lended it to, then it gets the experience of being a lender. Hey, I wonder what it's like for somebody to give me some money that I got to pay back. Okay, now I'm going to be the debtor. But God is playing both roles. I am is playing both roles. So when we say I am is in debt. I am is a lender or is the lender. I am lends. Right? I am has to do it all. Because there's only I am in the world. That's it. Everything is just an expression of it. There's only one thing being expressed 1,000 different ways, millions, but it's only one. There's only one thing making everything alive. And so it needs physical reflections of itself in order to play the roles it wants to play, to have the experiences it wants to play or have. That's why we are all here in physical form. We are the gods that came down from heaven, as they say. Well, as we read last week, know you not that you are gods, sons of the Most High? All of us are. We're all the one being. So you can change your role. You don't need anybody's help or permission as far as to go within yourself and say, you know what? I don't really, okay, if I'm doing this all, I can either be, I picked this. I'm going to pick that now. And now I'm just going to rehearse my lines. People say, okay, I'm now financially free, or I'm now the lender and I'm on top, not the bottom. I'm the head, not the tail. I'm the owner, not the owner. I'm the lender, not the borrower. You can change your role anytime you want to, because there's no one but you. There's no one but you. Physically, you're expressed differently, but your expression doesn't matter because it's only the expression of your experience. Your experience is the creator of all things. Your expression is just what you are experiencing. It's showing you. How would you, all of your manifestations are nothing but, if you were in Florida, if your eyes were closed and somebody dropped you off in Florida, and there were no signs anywhere, where are you? Where are you? If you close your eyes and somebody dropped you off in the middle of Florida and you didn't know where you were, where are you?
In Florida.
Middle of Florida.
Where are you?
Monique said inside.
Here, wherever here is.
Wherever I'm at.
Oh, that was nice. That was a good try. No. No. Where you are.
Sparkle Buddy said lost in Florida.
Yeah, you are in Florida, but you don't know it, right? So you're lost. You are lost, meaning your conscious mind is lost, but your body is in Florida. So then how do you ever know you're in Florida? Well, the reason you know you're in Florida, right, when we're not lost, if we know where we were, is because of all the signs. Don't they have signs everywhere that says you're in Florida? You're in the city of this, city of that. Your license plate says you're in Florida. Everything says you're in Florida. You have signs, right? Signs, consciously or psychologically, are what we call manifestations. They are signs. They're physical things that come into your world to let you know what state you're in. They're not there to judge you or condemn you any more than a Florida license plate. I'm in Florida. Why did license plate do that to me? License plate is just telling you where you are. This sign on the street light is telling you where you are. It is a manifestation. Right? So the things that are going on in your life, your manifestations, are just telling you the state of mind you're in. That is just telling you the state of mind you're in. It's telling you what role you're playing. It's not against you or for you, but I'm letting you know that you can get out of it, just like you can get out of Florida. Say, I don't want to live there anymore. You can say, I don't want to do that anymore. I don't want to do this anymore. I want to do this now. I want to move to California. I want to move to Dallas. I want to move to this or that. How many people on here live in the same place they grew up, in the same state? Or the same city? Right? We have the freedom to move all kinds of places. That's that, but we only realize that as we mature. And so what I'm saying, all that to say is that debt is just a role, just like lending is just a role. You need both of them in order to play, to interact. If you don't want to interact, then you step out and you're neither. Right? So you can say, man, everything in my name is paid up and paid off. All I have are living expenses, and those are always paid effortlessly, easy, and early. Right? It's just a role you're playing. And God plays all the roles, so you can choose what role you play or don't play, when you start and when you get out. And you practice that role by now assuming yourself to be something else. And you repeat that role like your lines. You repeat that in your mind. And sooner or later, you become one with that character. Then when you go to the movie theater and you see Denzel do his thing, you're like, Viola Davis do her thing, you're like, whoa. Like when they had that movie together, what was it, Fences? And they were both in there going, I mean, you had two people who had mastered their craft. That was a complete life.
Yeah.
Right? So I'm letting you know that you can do that, and that's why. And so all you do is go within yourself and change your role. Change your concept of what role you want to play. Pick up a new script. You're still the same actor, but pick up a different role. Right? All right. Because this is Costco, I decided to give you guys a little bit of some things I explained a little more in detail. In case you guys don't know, I always have, notes and things that I want to talk about. And I don't just come up here making it up, right? So, but today, because it's Costco, I'm gonna give you a little bonus pack. So there's a PDF in the chat that are my notes for today. And so this is not a book. So don't be looking at grammar and all the other stuff. This is just for me to learn so I can deal with you, right? But it's just something where some things I explained a little bit more in detail to make sure I hit certain details when I spoke with you all, or some things I didn't talk about as much at all today, but it'll just give you a little bit of insight into some of the things that I was saying today that you can kind of double back on, that you can kind of say, oh, okay, I see what he's talking about, or oh, I see what he means, or oh, whatever else it is. I don't, normally, share it. It's not nothing to hide, but I don't normally share it. I just use it to kind of keep myself on track and going forward. But today, it's just something that you get to see a little bit of how I put it together and thought process. Like I said, some things I explain a little more in detail, some things a little less because I understood what I meant. But it just gives you something to kind of chew on, chew over, especially the last part, the debt part. I go into it a little bit deeper so you can see it. You can read it and really chew on it. Really, and you'll see really what I meant to, and what my intent is to explain in this moment, right? So, all right. Well, hopefully my intention was that got it to you, and you can review the notes and stuff for yourself today, whenever it's good for you. And anything anybody wanted to say before I let you go for your fabulous Saturdays? Any questions? Anything like that?
I'll be adding that PDF to the replay also, as far as like in the website where I post the replay, it'll have it too.
So get it on the chat now while you can, while it's right in front of your face. Download or whatever you have to do. So, all right. Anybody have any questions, anything they want to say? Otherwise, I'll let you go and get to it.
Let me share.
Coach, it was good. I enjoyed it. I think it was that 95% to 5% for me. And realizing that all of our power really relies in that 5%. That really touched me. And then I love how you ended it when it came to like character and roles. And a lot of times people try to they're real superficial when it comes to, oh, your character, and you really broke that thing down into how it's really just a being and a state of consciousness, and how valuable your whatever type of role around you, it really just all comes down to who it is that you, and I think that was my biggest takeaways this morning, and I appreciate it.
Appreciate it. Thank you for coming. I'm glad you're getting it. I think those notes will be good too for you to be able to review. Think we'll enjoy it. Those will be good.
Awesome.
Okay. Well, hey, thank you all. Appreciate you all. Have a wonderful week. Remember who you are. Act like it. Be a doer of the word, not a hearer only. You'll never know if you don't do it. You'll never know if you don't apply it. You'll never know who you are, right? You are, whether you know it or not, but you'll never know you're that until you apply it. Apply it. Go out and live like the way you're supposed to, knowing who you are, because you can have or be or do anything. It's all yours. So play your role, mind your role, stay in your lane, right? Do your thing. Have a great week, great Saturday. We'll catch up next week.
Bye,
Thank
guys.
Thank you, Coach Lucky, as
Thank
always.
you. Tell my boy I said hey.
Definitely.
Thanks again.
Oh, my pleasure, always. Thank you all for coming, always.
Bye, guys.